Hello Wine Ghost friends, today's episode is particularly close to my heart. About 4 months ago I was lucky enough to visit the mesmerizing Tenerife, the biggest of the Canary Islands. That's when I met Roberto Santos, the native Canary winemaker from the Envinate Winery. The dreamy weather, warm winds, and anywhere you are you can either see the towering tidal volcano or the vast blueness of the ocean. A hell of a terroir, I would say. I also wrote about my experiences on my new website. You can find a link to the article in the description. Back then, I've already decided that I want to interview Roberto on the show and spread the word about the magical wines of Tenerife and the honest Envinate bottlings. This time, Roberto was also joined by Alfonso Torrente, a fellow winemaker at Envinate. In this episode, you'll learn about the centenarian ungrafted vineyards, the indigenous varieties of the island, and the story of Envinate, of course, why the Canary Islands didn't reach more fame yet, and which three driving forces are the four winemakers thrive in a wine for, and as always, much more. Please enjoy! So, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time, both of you. I want to start right away about the project of Envinate and how did it came about, and maybe could you tell a little bit about the story?
Yes, it's a little. It's important for us to study to understand Envinate because it's a little mass with people because we work in different areas and also we came from different areas, and I think it's important to understand how we met and the philosophy that we have. So Envinate, we are for friends, okay, and it's important for us that people should know that all the decision of Envinate is between the four of us, okay? Some people misunderstood that I am from Tenerife, so I make the wine in Tenerife. Alfonso is from Galicia, he makes the wine from Galicia. No, we make the wines, the four together, and we think that's very, very important, and that's the reason how we each year try to improve a little, because between the four of us, we talk and we learning every day. So we met at the University Miguel Hernandez, okay, in Albacete, and we came from different areas from Spain. For example, Laura, she came from Murcia. She studied before chemistry at the University or College of Murcia. Alfonso came from Galicia. She studied engineering agriculture in the University of Ourense. Jose came from Albacete, and also he studied as well as Alfonso engineering agriculture. Me, I came from Tenerife. I am chemistry organic from La Laguna in Tenerife University. The four of us, we didn't met before. We met there and we coincide because we always love wine. But for us, we think it's important to know that none of us have family with a cellar or with a vineyard. We have all, for example, my father have a restaurant. His grandfather have always was from a place with vineyard, but we never have a real family living from vineyards or from a cellar. Why we think this is important? Because we came from zero and we learn at the same time, and we have the same philosophy. So for that reason, when we talk, we have the same philosophy, and we know, and we want that Envinate must to be a project for long period for next generation. Okay, and that's and our philosophy is how we learn that, or how we like to be a wine, and that's something that we try to do every year, and to understand that a wine must to have three important things. One is the personality, and the personality is given by the soil. For that reason, we think it's very important to understand the soil and to study the different soils, but also it's more important to know the microbiology, what is going around, than also the soil, to have an alive soil. And it's something that each day we are learning about that. And we think that gives the personality to the wine. The second important thing for us in a wine is the character. So every year is different. It's dry year, warm year, cold, rainy, and it changes a lot. So every year the wines must to have different character. It's very easy to see wines, factory wines that are like Coca-Cola, that all the years they are the same because they have a recipe. And we think that the character of the vintage must to be in the wine. And the third thing that for us we get more value each day is the soul of the wine that is we think that is given by the people that is around, is the human factor. For example, it's not the same an old farmer or grower of 70 years old that have been working in the vineyard and he have another vision than a young people that came from and wants to make change very fast, very quickly, you know, with a lot of things new, or people that unfortunately is working in the vineyard because they need the money and they are working in bad way. So we think that's very important, and that's in the most thing that Envinate try to invest, that is the people that is around with us. And we think that that's basic to have a project for a long period. And in vineyard, we need a long time and people that trying to fill that. So our philosophy is that our wine must to have that three things. And what we are trying to do is interpret that things. And for that reason, we must to be in the vineyard, in contact with the soil, in contact with the air, in contact with the people that are working with us. So then when we make the harvest and when we pruning or when we work in the vineyard, because for us, the wine, the 90% is making the vineyard, but then the harvest also you interpret it with more sensibility. And it's something that is our philosophy that for sure we are learning every day. It's not something that we are learning. Alfonso, Alfonso speak a little English, for that reason he doesn't know too much.
Okay. How would you describe, because of course Envinate label covers much more than only the wines of Tenerife, but I'd like to concentrate on those on this island for this episode. Maybe in another one we can talk about Ribera Sacra or other regions in more detail. But could you please maybe both of you summarize how is the winemaking actually on Tenerife and how colorful the winemaking history of the island is, and also with this Portuguese influence and how the whole wine culture on Tenerife has been developed?
Okay, so the Canary Islands, a lot of people, when thinking Canary Islands wines, they think in Africa, in warm place, in a place that is not history making wine. And no, we are in a subtropical area, but we have the influence of the Alisios winds, and that makes a different kind of microclimates that we have in around the islands. And also we have a lot of culture of wine since the 15th century, okay? The conquest of Canary Islands started in the 15th century and finished in 1498. And that conquest almost lasts 100 years. And the Spanish people start to make the conquest in Canary Islands. Before here lived the native people were called Guanches, that they are bereber. They were bereber that came from Morocco. So they live in different kingdoms around the island. So some of the Guanches just give up, another fight a little, and another fight a lot. For that reason, the conquest of the islands lasts too much, almost 100 years. So at the end of the conquest, that was mainly the north of Tenerife and also part of La Palma, the Spanish people were helped by Portuguese. Okay, so when finished the conquest in 1498, the Spaniards gave to the Portuguese pieces of land. For that reason, we have two influences here: Spanish and Portuguese. And talking about vineyards or vines, most of the grapes or the vines that came from the Portuguese influence came from Madeira. Okay, like the popular Malvasia that was sold in the English market up to the 18th century. The popular Malvasia came from Madeira. That's one as well from Candida, from Greece. Okay, the Malvasia candiota, and another varieties like Gual, Forastera. And in the mainland in Spain, the varieties that most important that survive right now are the Listán Blanco, that is Palomino, and also the Listán Prieto, that is a Mission grape. That is the first variety that get in America, one of the first variety via Mexico, because 1498, so when the Spanish people go to America, they stop in Canary Islands, was very important. Stop and sad because was also the slaves commerce, you know. So they stop here and they drop some vines and then go to America. But we never had, we don't have vineyard, or we don't know that we don't have vineyard before the conquest of the Spanish people. So that varieties came from Spain and Portugal, basic, okay? And it's important also for us to say that Canary Islands is volcanic soils. They are very young soils. And also we never had phylloxera. Never had phylloxera in Canary Islands. So all the vines are ungrafted. It's very easy to see here vineyards more than 100 years old. It's normal to see because we never had phylloxera. And also they have been. And another important thing is that depending on the place that you are, you have different kind of training method, because we never had the phylloxera, so we never have take out the vines. So, for example, in La Rotava, in Icod Bajo, they used to work in Cordon Tresado, so they keep doing like 300 years ago, 400. In Taganana is a free system like in Colares, Portuguese influence, so they keep working in that way. In Santiago del Teide or in Vilaflor, they are in Gobelet, in Baso, and they keep working, the Spanish influences in Baso, they keep working the same way like 400 centuries because they never change everything. And also it's very typical here to see a blend of varieties in the same place. And another also important thing that we think is Canary Islands, that we think we have different microclimates. For example, in Tenerife, we can have vineyards in the coast. Now it's very difficult because the coast is better business for hotels and apartments. So it's very difficult to find vines in the coast up to 1,700 meters altitude. And depending where you are, we have more humidity, change the weather, more change of temperature. It's crazy how in small space you can change. But also, for example, if I am in Los Realejos, in Palo Blanco, I have Palomino, and I want to plant a new vine, or I want to plant an empty space, I take the vines from my own material, the best. So genetical for centuries have been from the same place and are varieties that are adapted. So what we want to mean with that? That the Listan Blanco in Los Realejos is different than in Santiago del Teide, than in Taganana, because for centuries, all the people, we don't buy the grapes in the nursery. We take from our local that we have. And in Taganana, we have vineyards that have been for centuries just in the same place. Here we call margullir, that means dive in Portuguese, that is marcotage in France, or the acodo, that from an old vine we make the new one. And then we call destetar, that is cut from the mother in the second or third year after made the marcotage. So this is for us that keeps the genetical selection that have been in for centuries. That for sure in Europe also have happened, but after phylloxera everything changed.
Because I think Tenerife is kind of also a living museum for wines, probably, right? Because you also have 300 years old wines, and also with Corton Trenzado, I think, could you please explain or describe Corton Trenzado? Because I think a lot of people don't know what you're talking about with these dreadlocks, kind of thick snake like wines.
Yes, it's like, I
try to explain you. The Cordon Trenzado system is an old system, and it's because the Malvasia is only in the 5 or 6 eyes of the plant is productive, and it's for this the pruning is long.
What Alfonso wants to explain is that in 16th to the 18th century in Canary Islands was very popular the Malvasia wines, that these Malvasias came from Madeira, and this is the Malvasia candiota, that is a variety that must be planted below 300 meters and also needs a long pruning. Okay, so this system is a great system because you can handle a long pruning, and also you can adapt it to different kind of soils in that way. You have to think that in that moment we didn't have a tractor, everything was by hand, so they want to work the space in the better way. So it's a system that you can handle in that way, a long pruning, and also can be adapted in different kind of slopes or of that. So you can see, and Cordon Trenzado is like Rastafari, like the Rastas, because each year, and also something that we have learned here in Canary Islands is that the people, when pruning, the training method is more trying to respect the fluid of the sap of the vine, more than going to make a space, like when you make a trolley, a paldera, that you are always in more, is more for vertical, making a good space, and here they look more for respect. It's true that here is not, we don't have machines because everything is by hand, and it's a system that in that area that was very popular, the Malvasia, have been, they haven't lost. It's true that the Malvasia in La Rotava, Los Realejos, almost there are not too much, because in that area is very popular the hotels and that, but they keep making the Cordon Trenzado more in the countryside, in the more altitude, with Listan Negro and another varieties, and they keep doing it that way. Also is in Canary Islands, we don't have too much big space, so they try to have two kind of products at the same space. So here was traditional to plant the vine and the potatoes. So after the harvest, the Cordon Trenzado, that one arm, the people have to think, if people have the choice to see a photo. So it's a system that one arm can length like of up to 15 meters. It's very, 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 very long, because they are very old vines and they can be very, very long system. So what they do with that, before they used to move that arm because it's mobile, they move after harvest and then plant potatoes in the middle and then move again. But for sure we don't do that. We move some years depending the different soils that we work to move the land. But we don't work with potatoes and vine, because the potatoes need to work with a high doses of nitrogen, and that make that the roots are more on the surface, and that's not good quality for us. But here was traditional to have different kind of training method, combine vine and potatoes.
And you also already mentioned that you have very distinct variations between the different parts of the island, right? So you can go up in altitude, you have different soil types and climatic zones on this little island. And how is it possible then that we could only name a handful of great wineries operating on this island? What do you think is the reason that Tenerife is not full of great winemakers as you are?
No, we are no great winemakers, but
yeah, you are.
The one thing that for us, Canary Islands is similar in the culture as like Galicia, because here we have very old vines, but because it was very traditional that the people have their own vines and they make the wines for themselves, for home. So for that reason, we still have a lot of vineyard, but it's very difficult to have a big plot, because they are very small plots but different growers. What happened now that unfortunately that tradition have been lost, because the people that have his father have a vineyard or his grandfather, so they prefer at the weekend, if they are working, so go to the beach, to the cinema, or having fun, than working in the vineyard, and have been lost the traditional at the weekend to having with friends in the house, drinking wine, playing the guitar, that kind of thing that have been lost cultural. So now is abandoned a lot of that time. So it's difficult here to have different vineyards or too much space, and that is really difficult to go that. So, but we think that not only in Canary Islands, also in Spain, is a very beautiful moment, because now people is making wines from the place, and they don't think that they have to make a fancy wine or something. That we think that in Spain we had the problem before, that in the 80s everyone wants to make the Riojas wine, so everyone planted Tempranillo, doesn't care about the varieties that they have. in the 2000 everyone to make the Parkers and American wines with high alcohol, very creamy, sweet, and everyone planted Syrah, Cabernet, 400% new oak. And now it's a new generation that have been traveled and they understand that they have to make the wine from the place. And if we are in Tenerife, the wines from Taganana are Atlantic, the wines from Albacete, Alvara, so it's Mediterranean wine. So trying to make different kind of wines and not factory wines, and we think that that shows a diversity in the area. And we agree with you that we think that in Canary Islands need to be more producers to show the complex that show the Canary Islands, but not only in Canary Islands, also in Galicia, in all Spain. I think that we need more to make a great place. No?
Because also last November I was lucky enough to visit you, and we tasted a lot of wines also from the barrel, but also bottled ones in your cellar. And I think your winemaking style is very distinct, very special, and it has kind of a very distinct kind of smell and texture, the wines. How would you maybe describe, or how would you maybe help someone to, in a blind tasting, to identify your wines? I mean, what is your winemaking style, and how could you maybe summarize the Envinate taste, so to say, from Tenerife?
It's a difficult question. Now, we always try to learn about the place, and we always try to put in the wine, in the bottle, places, the soils. For us, it's very important that, for example, in Tenerife, when you smell our wines, the volcanic soils are present. It's very important for us. And into this, it's very important the different type of kind of soils, in volcanic soils into the island. No?
Yes, and also we can make a big difference between the three areas that we work below 800 meters, that they have the influence of the delicious winds, that they are more Atlantic, they are more fresh, and the other that we work that, for example, in Santiago del Teide, still is not a warm wine, but is more continental, have more the fruit. In the other areas, like in La Rotava, Migan, or Tagana, or Santa Ursula, they shows more the spicy or the peppery of the volcanic soils, that we think that volcanic soil gives that character, that each year shows more complexity, that aromas. That's what we think. And as I said at the beginning, we are still learning. We are still learning. And we don't have a recipe. We're just trying to interpret what we have seen in all the year. But for that reason, for us, it's very, very important to be in contact with the vineyard, with the people that work with us, to interpret it with more sensibility. And we don't have the same point of view 10 years ago than now. And I think that shows in the wines right now. And also we want wines, that's true, that can be very enjoyable now, but with potential of aging. That's what we want.
Yeah, because my impression was always that it's no high extraction, so it's kind of low extraction wines with the whole cluster. You work a lot of bit whole cluster, right? Very spicy kind of wines. A lot of wines has this kind of saline notes, so it's kind of volcanic salinity. Very refreshing acidic structure, so it's very kind of easy to drink and very digestible wines. No heaviness or no over extraction, not a lot of alcohol, not a lot of oak. So it's a kind of dancing kind of wines, I would say. It's a very refreshing kind of Burgundian kind of style where you are not full after one glass, but you are kind of, you have the urge to drink more.
Yeah, but the most important thing is that we try to harvest the best grapes and healthy grapes, the best grapes, and we work in the vineyards for having very good grapes, ripe grapes with balance and low alcohol. But it's our work in the vineyards. We work for us, And after it's very easy to interpret this and elaborate these grapes.
As I say, Alfonso, something that we learned is that great wines always came from a balanced vineyard. Good soil, balanced vineyard, you can that gives you a good wine that can age and always is balanced. Could be a Mediterranean wine, Atlantic, but if you work with a vineyard that is not balanced, we think that at the beginning you can put some makeup to make a wine, but it's not going to be a great wine. For that reason, we vineyard, trying to understand the vineyard, and then if you have a balanced vineyard, it's easy to make a good wine. It's easy, and for sure, don't use commercial yeast, don't use makeup, because we are not afraid of our terroir or our flavor, and we want to make that. The big problem for Envinate will be is the wine of Tenerife or the wine from the different areas that we work taste the same or taste the same style that, for example, in Galicia or in Albacete, for us will be a big problem because it's more the recipe than the working that we do. For sure, we have a style, as I say, Alfonso, before, we try to make the wines that we really like, and that's what we are trying to do, always focusing a balanced vineyard. But it's important that must to be show the area. That is the philosophy that I said at the beginning. The three important things: the personality, the character, and the soul of the wine.
And how is it? Because you work on a lot of terroirs together, the four of you. And how are these terroirs different in terms of vineyard work? So how do these terroirs differ? Like you work, all four of you are working these kind of four regions, right?
Yes.
And how is it different, for example, to work on the Canary Island than to work in other places in terms of winemaking? Is it harder, viticulture? Is it harder for you, more difficult?
For example, Canary Islands is similar like in Ribera Sacra because they are small plots. And most of them we must work by hand, so we cannot work with a tractor, and it's very difficult. We need more time to work there, and also if we don't work with chemistry, we only work with natural products. So in that way, you must to work a lot of time because everything is by hand. For example, and if you compare, for example, in Albacete, that we have a great quality, the same, but there to move the soil in one plot, that we have plot of Moravia of 4 hectares with a tractor, in one day you can do it. Here to work in Canary Islands or in Galicia, the soil of 4 hectares, we need 5 people working around 2 weeks. You know, is that a big difficult? And the weather here, depending the place that we are. Here we have a lot of humidity. If we work near to the coast, below the clouds, so there we work like more treatments. We work only with sulfur or with bentonite or silice to make and also handle the humidity. Santiago del Teide, we have more insulation, so we work with more canopy. In Almansa, we work with more canopy to have a Mediterranean wine, but fresh. So something that we have learned is that every place is different, and it's important to change the mind when you move to one place to another. We think for us it's very important that we are 4, and also we have been before working in other areas, consulting sellers around mainland Spain, and that gives to us a different vision of mind when we are working in one place to the other, and not only the vineyard or the winemaker, also the people that work with us. It's not the same working with a Galician person that from Tenerife than from Albacete. It's totally different.
And it's important into the island. For example, the Taganana is totally different Santiago del Teide. We don't talk about the place, the Galicia, Tenerife, or Albacete. Also into the island is totally different. Taganana or Santiago del Teide or Realejos, and we work in different way.
Cool. And then in the winemaking, as you say, for us, we think that we have natural tools like working with the stems. For example, in Ribera Sacra, we work more with the stems. In Tenerife, depending the vineyard and the soil or the terroir, we work with 0 stem up to 100. And we used to make working with high temperature, but we don't have a recipe. It depends how we do, and working with our natural tools. So, for example, the vintage, Benje Blanco, we work with floor because it's at 1,000 meters. Then we have a lot of insulation, have more glycerol, so the floor is the glycerol. So depending the vintage, for example, 2021 was warmer than 2022. We have more percentage of floor than in 2022. 2022 are more fresh, so we add a little only. So there are natural tools that we use: the stems, the temperature, the long of maceration, but always trying to work in a soft way and have a balanced grape. The clue is to have a balanced grape. If like you ask to a chef, the fish, it's a good chef, they are looking for a good fish and just show the fish, no adding another makeup to hide the real fish. If it's good, for sure.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the grape varieties? So you have maybe Lista Negro is the most important variety for you probably on the island, right? Or in terms of reds, but can you talk a little bit about the other varieties as well?
Okay, for us, red varieties, the most the one that we work in Tenerife, and we think that they are the most representative, is the Lista Negro, for sure. That we think is the variety that is well adapted in all the terroirs and can translate very nice the different style of soils or microclimate. And the other Lista Negro, there are not variety in another place in the world that we haven't found. Okay, so we don't know exactly if this came from Portugal or from Spain. We really don't know that one. So Lista Negro. The other variety that people confuse is Listan Prieto. That this one is the mission grape or país in Chile, o Albillo Criollo, or Criolla Chica in Argentina. Okay, that is the Listan Prieto. And this variety used to be by Spanish influence, and here is planted always in a high altitude vineyards, like in Santiago del Teide or in Vilaflor, or also in La Palma, in Tijarafe, in high altitude. That's Listan Prieto, that's the mission. That's the two red. And the other that is very delicate, that is a variety that used to be more on the coast, is the Negramol. Negramol, that is also came from Madeira, Negramol. And then there are another more varieties like Baboso Negro, Vicariego Negro, Bastardo, Quintilla, Castellana, another Malvasia Rosada, another varieties, but the more representative, I think, is Listan Negro for sure, Negramol and Listan Prieto. No? And for whites, Listan Blanco, that is the Palomino, that as well as the Listan Negro, we think that, and it's the most extended because the growers seeing what's the best and shows very nice the different kind of soils and microclimates. And then other are like Marmajuelo, Gual, Gual is Boal in Madeira, Verdello, Forastera Gomera, Albillo, Malvasia for sure, White Vijariego, I don't know if Torrente. There are another more that they are very, very interesting. Yes. For example, Gual, Verdello, and Forastera were very important varieties when in Canary Islands export the wine to United Kingdom, because we made two different kinds of wines, the Malvasia, or the other that was a blend of different grapes, and the Verdello, Gual, and Forastera. For example, when Listan is at 12 alcohol, that varieties are at 16 alcohol, 17. So that with high acidity, that varieties the people say that give strength to the wine. You have to see that in the 17th century, the wine was transported in boats to United Kingdom, so need to be with high alcohol in barrels. They were not bottled, they were not so that varieties were very important. And we are lucky that we were still in Taganana with that varieties, that very, very old varieties, and is interesting.
Cool. Super. I know that you have to go to the vineyard, so I don't want to take more of your time. But thank you very much, and it was great talking to you. I think we could talk for a couple of hours if you want to go in detail, but maybe next time. And I really encourage every listeners to try not only the Tenerife wines, but also the other wines from Envinate. We also have Albacra by the glass in the hotel, and everyone loves it. I think it's also a very great value wine. As you said, I also like that you are very transparent about how much a wine actually costs to produce. And in Tenerife, it's of course much more expensive to produce a wines, also because of these reasons what you mentioned. But so, and also follow the Envinate on Instagram. I think very good photos and very authentic.
Okay,
really
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Super. Then have fun. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Thank you so much, yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Nice to meet you.
Well, thanks for listening, and if you like this episode, please don't forget to rate the show. It helps the algorithm a lot and me as well to spread the word around these beautiful wines. So, thanks and have a nice day. May Go Wine Goes be with you.